Hello students, welcome back. In our last video, we did some pretty amazing things. We built out our world and our player for Territory Rush. And in this video, we're going to do some equally amazing things. But this time, most of the work that we do is going to be behind the scenes. It's not going to really change anything visually about our game. See, our program for our game, needs to understand what state of operation it is currently in. For example, let me give you a few states or game modes we might run in. The start mode, the play mode, and the lose mode. And depending on which mode we are in, we might need to have certain gameplay operations available to us or not available to us. If we are in the play mode, we should be able to move our character, our player, all around the screen. If we're in the lose mode, well, then we just died, so we no longer should be able to do that. And we might want to show like a game over screen when we're in the lose mode. Or if we're in the start mode, we might want to show a start screen. Those start screens and lose screens are known as overlays, because if this is our game window, the start screen will sit over the game window. Then we'll pull it away. And then we'll have just our game window where we can play our game. And if we have a game over, we'll switch to our lose mode and show the lose overlay, which sits over the game window. So our program needs to understand, it needs the logic to be able to swap these modes in and out based on the mode of operation that's desired by our user. So that's exactly what we're going to hit on in this video here on game states and overlays. So let's head to the computer screen and we'll dive right in. So I've got lesson 2 open here in vscode.dev. I'm going to minimize my web browser and we're going to open this file directly. So I'm going to come over here to Territory Rush and I'm going to click on lesson number 2 and we'll click on our starter file. So this is the state of our current game. I believe it's exactly where we left off. So if I go off the screen, I get a nice reset right back to the beginning. I have good dimensional movement in the X and Y direction that keeps me moving. And there we go. Perfect reset. So the only problem is, when I start my game, I'm thrown right into this play mode of operation. I would like to see like a start screen sitting here, something that will greet my player. And that's exactly what we're going to work on here in this lesson. So let's go to mission number 1. Mission number 1 in our checklist says we have to add our game state values. So let's hit Control F and type in the mission 1 tag. Here it is in our mission checklist. If we hit the down button, we will be brought to mission 1 in our code. So mission 1 brings us here, and it says add the game state value for start, play, and lose. Use clear names so the game can switch between modes. It looks like we have a constant variable called game mode. This is inside of our student edit zone. So we should be able to edit this, add to it, and it won't break our current game. So this is going to work out really nicely. If you notice, this variable, game mode, is an object. It's got curly brackets, much like if I go just a little bit below, my player object had curly brackets. And if you remember from our last video, we said the player has properties. So we had a column property, a row property, a dx property, and a dy property. And those properties had values 0, 0, 0, 0. And we changed those properties later on. Well, for our game mode, we're not going to be able to change its properties because it's going to be a constant. So once we define it, we are saying, hey, these are going to be all of the game mode operations options for us in our game. And we're going to have 3 of them. We're going to have a start, play, and lose mode of operation. So these are going to be properties of this object. So I'm going to make them all capitalized to make it clear that these are gameplay modes. So I'm going to make a start property, and its value will be a string, start. I'll make a play property, and its value will be a string play. And then I will make a lose property, and its value will be a string lose. Wonderful. So we now have those 3 modes of operation, and we could expand this. Like maybe we could put like a pause state, and its value would be pause. If we wanted to have a pause mode or a menu mode or an inventory mode, we could build this out. But for the purpose of this video, for the purpose of what we are trying to do here, I think 3 modes of operation is perfect. Start, play, and lose. Mission number 1 is in the books. Now, I see one glaring problem here. This is a constant, which means we are never going to change the value of this variable. I probably want to have a variable whose value can change. At one moment, it can take on start, And then maybe if I hit enter to like begin playing the game, it can switch to play. And then maybe if I die, it will switch to lose to end the game and go into the lose state. So we need another variable here for this system. And this second variable, which we are going to be constantly changing, is going to be a gameplay variable. So if you notice here in mission 2, it says set the current game mode to the title screen. Make the game begin in the correct state. So we are using let here to declare this variable called current game mode. Let means it will change its value. And right now that value is set to a special variable called null, which just means no data. All right, it's set to nothing. Well, we don't want to set it to nothing. When we start the game, we probably want to put the current game mode to start. But you can't just write the word start. You have to access that game mode from an object. And our game modes live in our object called game mode. We've got 3 of those modes: start, play, and lose. So we're going to access them through this object right here. So I'm going to say, okay, we're going to create a brand new variable called current game mode, whose value can change depending on the state of operation that we are in. And right now, at the beginning of our game, we are going to set it equal to the game mode object, and then we'll do a period, which means give me access to everything that you got. And look, we got a lose property, a play property, and a start property. Well, at the start of our game, we want to equal the start property. So now, when we refresh our game, we have a variable called current game mode, and it's currently equal to start. So our game knows that it is in the start state. It's just that we're not telling it to do anything if it is in that start state. So we got to go work on that. What do we do if our current game mode is equal to start? Well, we're going to start by going to mission number 3. Mission number 3 has us in a function called draw start overlay. All right, I think this is good, because if we are in the start mode, rather than just throwing us into the game, I want to draw a start screen, right? I want to draw a start screen that says like, welcome to Territory Rush, expand your empire, beat the game, that kind of stuff. So what we need to do is call this function. Inside of this function for our start overlay or our start screen, the first thing we say is no stroke. That means give me an invisible marker so you don't see the outline of the shape that I'm about to draw. And then we use the fill command to put some paint in our paint bucket. That paint color is 000.6. It's an RGB alpha string. So 0 in the red, 0 in the green, 0 in the blue. That makes black, and its transparency is going to be 0.6. So we're going to be able to see behind it. And that is huge because the shape that we draw is a rectangle, which starts in the top left corner of our screen and goes the width of the canvas and the height of the canvas. So we're going to start right here in the top left corner and make a rectangle that goes all the way to the width, all the way to the height. It's going to sit over our entire game window, hence the name overlay. So our start overlay is going to sit over the entire game window and be a transparent black so we can see behind it. So now what do we want to do? Well, we want to put some text on there. We want to show the title over the game board. And in fact, before we get there, it looks like we've got other text here. Let's just look at what it is. We set our text size to 18, which is kind of small, but it's okay. And then we make some text. It says, leave safe territory and carve out new ground. Expand your empire while avoiding danger. Claim the grid. Press enter to begin. I would say that this is what we would call flavor text. It's text that exists to build up the story or the lore or set the mood of the game that we are trying to create. And we've got 4 pieces of flavor text here. And if you remember, a text function needs 3 things. It needs the text that you want to display as a string. It needs the x coordinate, and then it needs the y coordinate. The x coordinate for all of these is width divided by 2. Width, the full width of the canvas, divided by 2, puts us smack dab in the middle horizontally. And then our vertical position is height times some decimal that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, eventually that decimal is going to get to 1. And the smallest it could be is 0. Height times 0 is 0, which puts us at the top of our canvas. Height times 1 is height, the height of our canvas. Height times 0.5 would put us halfway. Here's height times 0.6, height times 0.7, height times 0.8, height times 0.9, and height times 1. So as our decimal gets bigger, we go further and further down the screen. So let's create our title text right now. Well, the first thing I'm going to point out is a glaring problem. The current paint in our paint bucket is this transparent black. And then we never change that paint. So all of this beautiful text, all of this beautiful flavor text is going to be transparent black, sitting on a transparent black background. We will never see it. So we have to change the paint color in our paint can. So we'll type fill, and then we'll write text color, which is the color that we have for our text. It's that nice white color in our color palette. Semicolon for good JavaScript. Next, let's align our text. I'll do text align, and in the horizontal direction, I could do left, and in the vertical direction, I'll do center. But this is going to be bad for us because if you remember, we are positioning all of these at width over 2, the center of our canvas. So I don't want the L to be at the center of my canvas or the E to be at the center of my canvas. I want like the center of this string and the center of this string and the center of this string to be at the center of my canvas. So we're saying width over 2, so let's align in the horizontal direction using center. Then let's set the text size because we're about to show the title of the game. So I want my text size to be bigger. So I'm going to do text size 60. And then let's just make our text object. So we'll say text. And I'm going to put the title of my game, Territory Rush. Where do I want it horizontally? Width divided by 2. Where do I want it vertically? I'm going to stack it up. So I'm going to do height times 0.30. And with that, I think our start overlay, our start screen is complete. Let's see if it shows up. Let's see this start screen. Let's take a look. So I refresh my game and nope, no start screen. What a giant bummer. It's not working. Why not? I mean, we wrote it perfectly. This function looks great. This set of instructions is wonderful for a start screen. Well, all we did here was write the set of instructions. We might not yet be calling or running the set of instructions. So that's something that we are going to have to look at. Just because we write the instructions doesn't mean those instructions are being followed or called anywhere yet in our program. So maybe mission 4 will have us do that. Mission 4, no. Mission 4 finds us working on our lose overlay. All right, well, I guess that makes sense because our start screen and our game over screen, our start overlay and our lose overlay are going to be very similar in nature. This function, draw lose overlay, we start by saying no stroke. Give me an invisible marker so you're not going to see the outline of the shape that I'm about to draw. And then I'm going to load up some paint in my paint bucket with the fill command. I'm going to put a transparent black. There it is. 000.6. Red 0, green 0, blue 0 makes black, and it's going to be transparent. Then we're going to use that paint to draw a rectangle that sits over our entire game window. Upper left corner, 0, 0. Width of that rectangle is the width of our canvas. The height of that rectangle is the height of our canvas. So it's going to start here and sit over our window, hence the name overlay. Then we change our paint color. We get that text color. We align our text center. We change our text size and we say territory lost. Wah, wah. It's game over. Then we have some little flavor text. We lower our text size and we say, control of the grid has slipped away. Your empire could not hold. Now, what do we need to do? Well, it says we're going to show restart instructions. All right, well, let's create a text object. So we'll call text, and then we'll say press enter to restart. So there's the string that I want to show. Its X position is going to be width divided by 2, so the center of my canvas horizontally. And then my last one was at height times 0.55, so let's do height times 0.66. I think that works really good. And let's make one more text, because not only could we restart the entire game, but we could also like go back to the title screen. Let's go back to the start screen. So I'll say press R for title screen. And we'll go to the width divided by 2. And then we'll go to a height, H-E-I-G-H-T, and we'll make it go just a little bit lower, 0.77. All right, start overlay is written. Lose overlay is written. But we're going to suffer the exact same problem we did with the start screen. We wrote those instructions, but we might not yet be following or calling those instructions. So let's see what mission 5 has us do. Mission 5 says, show the correct overlay for the current game state. All right, so I think I think this is where the magic is going to happen. So before we get there, I'm just going to scroll a little down and review some of our really important P5 functions. We have the setup function, which runs once as soon as we refresh our game. So as soon as we refresh our game, that function runs. And then we have the draw function, which runs every single frame of our game. If it's at 60 frames per second, that's 60 times in a second. We are updating our player. We are drawing our scene. So draw scene right here is getting called over and over and over and over again, which is really important because that's where mission 5 finds us. It says inside of draw scene, which gets called over and over again. We draw our background, we draw our player, we draw our HUD, and now there is mission 5. We want to draw our overlays. Well, let's just see what happens. Well, this is kind of cool. Like, let's comment out draw background. So 2 slashes will comment out a line. So now we're going to skip drawing our background. Let's look at what happens. Boop, there goes our background. I just got my player now. Whoa, this is actually kind of cool. Because we're not drawing our background, our previous player just sits there. Wow, this is neat. I kind of like this. This is sort of like that game Snake-ish. Hey, I can make cool designs. Okay, enough of that. So let's bring our background back in. So we were just drawing our player over and over again, but drawing background overwrites all those previous values. So that's kind of neat. So if we want something to appear, we just have to call its function or run the set of instructions inside draw scene. So let's run a set of instructions for our start overlay. So we're going to type the name of the function, draw start overlay. And then this is really nice. I start typing draw start, and then you can see it sort of pop up right here. I can do tab for autocomplete. So if you start typing draw start, and you can see I get like a huge list. I can even move through the list with the arrow keys, find what I want. There's draw start overlay, tab for autocomplete. Now that's the name of the function. If you want to run those set of instructions, you need a set of parentheses and then a semicolon for good JavaScript. With that, we should now see our start overlay. Boom! There it is. Territory rush. Leave safe territory and carve out new ground. I love it. Now it says press enter to begin. I'm spamming the enter key, and that is not yet working, but don't worry, we will fix that. Before we fix it, though, we've got another overlay. So let's just draw the other overlay that we have. Let's draw lose overlay. If we look here, here's my list, tab for autocomplete, a set of parentheses to actually run those instructions, and then a semicolon for good JavaScript. If I refresh my page now, let's see. What? I think it's working. It's doing what we're telling it to do. I think we gave it garbage instructions. So garbage in, garbage out, right? Look what's happening. We're drawing the game window. Then we're drawing our start overlay, so you can sort of see that text. And then over that, we're drawing our lose overlay. So we're drawing like the game window, the start overlay, and the lose overlay. This is bad. I don't always want to draw the start overlay. I don't always want to draw the lose overlay. I only want to draw them if certain conditions are true. So we have to ask a question about whether or not we should draw those overlays. And the way we do that is with an if statement. So if, and then a set of parentheses. And we're going to put a question in these parentheses. And if the answer to this question is yes or true, then this line of code will run. So when do we want to draw our start overlay? Well, we want to draw our start screen if the current game mode is equal to start. So do you remember we had a variable that we set back in mission number 2. It was called current game mode. Here it is in my list, a tab for autocomplete. We are going to check to see what it is equal to. And if it is equal to start, then it is time to draw the start overlay. Now, 1 equal sign assigns a value in JavaScript. 2 equal signs is a loose check for equality. And we are going to use 3 equal signs for a strict equality check. We're going to check to see if that current game mode variable is equal to our start mode. Now, where is our start mode found? It is found in the game mode object that we created. Dot, which means give me access to everything that you have. And from that list of things, I'm going to pick. I have a lose property. I have a play property and a start property. I want it equal to our start property. Wonderful. Well, hey, let's ask another question about the lose overlay, because we're going to say if, and then some question. And if the answer to that question is yes, then we will draw our lose overlay. Well, when do we want to draw our lose overlay? We only want to draw it if our current game mode is equal to 3 equal signs for strict equality. If it is equal to the lose state, that lose state is stored in our game mode object's lose property. All right, so now there's just one small change I'm going to make before we test this. Right now, I have two independent questions. I ask this question, then I ask this question. But if you notice here, if we say yes to this question, the current game mode is equal to start, then the current game mode will never equal lose. It can't equal lose if it is equal to start. We only want to ask this question if this answer was no or false. So the way we do that is we type else if. It makes them sort of a follow-up question that you got to ask. So you're only going to ask this second question if this first question was no. If this first question is yes, we're just going to run this bit of code right here and then not even bother asking that second question. So right now, if we run it, I should only see my start mode. Perfect. So there's our start screen. So now if I'm going to just go to mission 2 up here in my search bar, because mission 2 is where we were setting our current game mode. Let's set it to play. Well, let's set it to lose. So what if it was set to lose? So now if it's set to lose, we should see our lose screen. And we do, territory lost. And if it's set to play, neither of those questions answer yes, right? In mission 5, we saw, let me set that back to play and go up here. In mission 5, we said if the current game mode is start, do this. Else if the current game mode is lose, do this. So we're drawing our overlays. And if neither of those are true, we don't draw anything. And there we are in our play state. So this is working really quite nice. So let's be nice here. We're not going to start the game right off in the play state or start the game in the lose state. We are going to start the game in the start state. And so now let's go see what mission 6 has us working on. Mission 6 says, okay, we got one slight problem here. And this is that we are updating movement when we are in anything other than play mode. We only want to update our player if we are in the play mode. So right now, I'm in the start mode, right? It says here, press enter to begin, but watch what I can do. I can still move my player. I can still play my game, even though we are not yet in the play state. And we don't want that. We want to disable that player movement. So inside of our P5 draw function, which gets called every single frame of the game, we have mission number 6. If you look here, we are asking a question, and our question currently says, if true. Now, I really don't like that question because that question will always be true. The answer to this question here is always yes, which means this line of code that's inside of these curly brackets will always run no matter what. What we need to do is put a question in here. When do we want the update player function to run? When do we want to call that function? Well, we only want to update our player if our current game mode is equal to play, right? We don't want to do it in the start state or the lose state. So let's ask that question. We'll use our current game mode variable, and we're going to use 3 signs for equality, strict equality. Is that value currently equal to game mode dot play? We're going to check the play property. If it is, we'll update the player. Otherwise, we'll skip this. We won't update the player, and we'll only draw our scene. So let's check. Now when I refresh the page, I'm going to hit the arrow keys. I get 0 movement. So we have been locked out of playing the game until we press enter to begin. So let's press enter to begin right now. I'm aggressively hitting the enter key in hopes that my mic picks up that clickety-clack of the keyboard. Can you hear it? Because I'm not moving right now. I'm not doing it. So clearly, this is not wired up correctly. So you got to go to mission number 7. Mission number 7 finds us in a brand new and very important function called key pressed. If you notice, this is right near the P5 draw and the P5 setup function. Setup runs once at the start of every game. Draw is run every single frame of the game. Key pressed is run anytime a keyboard button is pressed down. Not while it's being held down, only when it is in the act of getting pressed. Now, when that happens, we have access to what key is pressed. So if we look here, we ask a question. If the key code was enter, did you press the enter key? Then we ask a follow-up question. We're only going to ask this question if the answer to this question is yes. So if your key code was enter, then is the current game mode equal to start? Or is the current game mode equal to lose? So if we are in the start state, we see our start overlay, or the lose state, we see our lose overlay, and we pressed enter, what do we want to do? Well, do you remember? I'm just going to jump. You can stay here. In our start overlay, we prompted the user to press enter to begin. And in our lose overlay, we prompted the user to press enter to restart. So we want them to begin the game. We want them to restart the game. How do we set ourselves back into the playing the game? So here it is. We press the key. If that key was enter, if we are currently in our start state or our lose state, we want to play the game. Well, we're going to target our current game mode variable, and we are going to assign it a value with a single equal sign of game mode dot play. We're going to put it back into the play state. So let's check this out. Let's run this. Now, if I hit enter, I'm back in the play state. Hey, that's pretty good. I really, really enjoy that. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret because we have a start overlay. We just saw it when I refreshed the page. There it is. But we also have a lose overlay. How do I trigger a game over right now so I can see the lose overlay? How do I test it? Well, if I scroll down inside of key pressed, if we press the key and it wasn't enter, none of this code is going to run. Looks like we got something here with mission 8, but we skip it, and I got a forced debug lose screen. So I've wired up a little bit of code here. It says, if we ask a question, was the key that pressed the G key or the capital G key? If that is the case, if one of those keys was pressed, we ask another question. If the current game mode is equal to play, then we're going to switch the game mode to lose. So this means we can force a game over for testing with the G key. All right. So let's test it. We're in the play mode. If I hit G, game over, just like that. Territory lost. So now I can hit enter to restart, and I should go back into my game. Now, this looks really great. There's just one slight problem. Watch where my player starts. My player should start here, right? If I'm moving over here and then I hit game over, my player is right here, and when I restart, I'm restarting from that position. That is no good. That is really bad. When I restart the game, I should go back to the starting position. So what we want to do is inside mission 7, before we set our game mode back to play, I believe we have a really important function called reset game to defaults. We are going to reset all of these systems that we are going to put into our game, whether it's our player system or our enemy system or our score system, we are going to reset them back to their default values. In order to do that, we just call our function. So right here above the line we just wrote in mission 7, before we do this, we're going to call reset game to defaults, a nice tab for autocomplete, a set of parentheses to run that set of instructions, and then a semicolon. Now, when we go to play our game, we're going to make sure the game is reset, and then we switch our game to play. So let's test this. I'm going to play my game, and then I'm going to force a game over. So there's my game over. My player is all the way down here. That's where I died. I hit enter to restart, and I'm right back to the starting value. Perfect. One last mission, because if you look here at my game over, it says press enter to restart or press R for the title screen. So I can't press R for the title screen. I'm not getting that functionality. So I'm pressing a key. So we're going to go to the key pressed function. If the key code was enter, it's not. The key code is R. Well, if you look here, mission 8 says return to the title screen with the R key, reset the game and switch it back to start mode. If false, oof. What a terrible question, because this question will always evaluate to false. It's always going to answer no. So this code is never going to get run. So we got to make it a question that is sometimes yes, sometimes no. And if it's yes, what are we going to do? We're going to reset our game to its default values and set the current game mode to the start mode, which means our start overlay will be shown. We said we want to map this to the R key. So I'm going to follow the exact same functions that line of code that you see down here in our debug. We're going to ask a question. Is the key that was pressed, 3 equal signs for a check for equality, the R key? Or, 2 vertical bars for or, was the key that was pressed, 3 equal signs for equality, capital R, because maybe we got the caps locks on. All right. When we check for enter, enter is a special key, so we have a key code, but our letter keys, we can just check to see their letter value, so we can just use key here. And with that, I believe our whole system here for game states and overlays is complete. So let's test the entire functionality. Here we are. We are in our start overlay. The game mode of operation is blocked out. I can't move until I transition to the play state by hitting enter. I hit enter, and now I'm in the play state. So I can play the game. I can move my player. Wonderful. I can trigger a game over with the G hotkey, which transitions me to the lose state. Now I'm in the lose state. I can't move again. I can press enter to restart, and when I do, I get reset back to the beginning value. So now when I move around, it's a brand new game. All right, it's a brand new game. and I can hit G for game over. And now if I want to just go right back to the title screen, I can hit R, and that switches me from the lose state back to the start state. All right, I think this is a really, really good place to stop. Our overlay system and our game mode, object here is working really well to swap states in and out as the player is playing the game. We're seeing the right overlay sitting over our screen. We're pulling it away when we don't need it. We're triggering our gameplay operations. This is really nice synergy of multiple things working together. And I know at one point in the video I said we could expand this. We could maybe make a pause state if we wanted to. All we'd have to do is go back to our game mode object, put another property, pause, with a value of pause as a string, and then check to see if the user presses maybe the P key, we'll draw a pause overlay. We'll set our game mode to pause, and if that's the case, then we'll draw a pause screen. Just a big black rectangle sitting over our game window that says pause right in it. In fact, I think that's something you could try to implement. I bet you could maybe figure that out, and it would feel really, really great if you got that all on your own. So give it a shot if you want, and I'll see you in the next video.